They don't want you to bring it up. They claim it's a bad argument. They claim it's a deceiving stat. They say ridiculous things like it had more to do with the quote-unquote weak competition of the 90s than with Jordan's greatness. They know it's the only way to make an argument for their favorite player to be ranked ahead of them. Don't be fooled. Deep down, they know the argument is unbeatable if you simply say that Michael Jordan is 6-0 in the finals. If they want context, if they want logical reasoning behind the 6-0 stat, all you have to do is state the following irrefutable points, and that will shut them down for good. The first thing that they'll surely say is that Robert Horry went 7-0 in the finals, and Bill Russell went 11-12 in the finals. Does that mean they're greater than Michael Jordan? The premise of that argument drives me crazy. We're talking about two completely different things. If all you're doing is counting rings and nothing else, then sure, I guess he got me there. But that's far from what we're doing. Robert Horry was always just a role player. In some cases, he was coming off the bench for some of those championship years. He was never the primary or secondary reason why his teams won. It makes no sense to compare the two. In Bill Russell's case, we can make the argument that there were at least 3 years where he wasn't the best player when the Celtics won the title. I would include his rookie season, the 1968 season, and the 1969 season. But we can't say the same for Jordan. He was always the best player for all the titles he won. Who else in the modern NBA can say the same? Not just that they always were the best player when they won, but for the number of times that he did it. Since the merger, there are 4 players who are in the GOAT conversation that won at least 5 titles. Those players are Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, and Tim Duncan. However, none of them can say that they were the best player for each title they won. They all lost the Finals MVP to a superior teammate. But what about LeBron James? He won 4 titles and was the best player in each of those seasons. Here's the difference. He lost in the finals as many times as Jordan won it, 6 times. This is the foundation of this whole argument. It's not just that he won 6 titles. There are players who won more than he did. It's what he did to ensure that he never lost. We're talking about the way he performed. This is where we can say that he is superior to everyone else. Let's start with this fact. There has been no one in the history of the game that's been relied on more by their team to win a title. We can prove this by one simple stat: usage rate. We're going to be looking at the highest usage rate for a single postseason by a player that won a title. Number 1 is Michael Jordan in the 1993 postseason. Number 2, it's Michael Jordan in the 1992 postseason. Number 3, it's Michael Jordan in the 1998 postseason. Number 4, it's Hakeem Olajuwon in the 1995 postseason. And at number 5, it's Michael Jordan in the 1997 postseason. He has 4 appearances in the top 5 alone. I want you to think about how impressive this is. We're going to use LeBron James as an example. There was one time when he was utilized as much as Jordan was in the playoffs, and that was in 2015. We can see right here, it was just under his 1993 postseason. The question is, how did he perform? He averaged 30.1 points, 11.3 rebounds, and 8.5 assists per game. That's not bad at all. In fact, they're great numbers. But take a look at his shooting percentage. He averaged 41.7% from the field. When he was asked to be utilized as much as Michael was, he turned into an inefficient gunner. He couldn't take on this added workload while also being his normal efficient self. But what about Michael Jordan? In the 1993 playoffs, he averaged 35.1 points on 47.5% shooting, 6.7 rebounds, and 6 assists per game. When he was asked to be utilized more than anybody else in playoff history. He went on to average the most points per game by any player in the postseason while winning the title. And yes, he was efficient. Instead of running out of gas in the finals, he went on to average the highest points per game in a final series, 41 points on 51% shooting. This guy's motor is just insane. He did all this after leading his team to back-to-back titles. This was after he posted a 34.7 usage rate in the 1993 regular season, which is the highest usage rate by any player who won the title in the same year. I just gave you 4 unbreakable records that Jordan achieved in just one season, and we still have 5 more to go. Let's start from the beginning, in 1991. What makes this one special is that he can say that he led his team to a historically dominant postseason. The true greats of the game have been able to accomplish this, and Michael is no exception. He led his team to a 15-2 playoff record. That is tied for the 4th best win percentage for the shot clock era. They beat their opponents by an average margin of 11.7 points, which is the 5th highest mark ever. They accomplished this by beating Patrick Ewing and the Knicks, Charles Barkley and the 76ers, Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons, and Magic Johnson and the Lakers. If you think about it, they were 2 desperate 3-point field goals away from going undefeated in the playoffs. Hersey Hawkins and Sam Perkins stood in the way of immortality. Their 2 losses were both by 2 points. It was a real possibility that he could have gone undefeated in the playoffs. How many players in league history can say the same thing? Once he reached the finals, he made history from an individual standpoint. If you are someone who watches my videos, you know what stat I'm about to mention. But if you are new to the channel, you're going to be blown away by what I'm about to say. In the 1991 finals, he averaged 11.4 assists per game. That is the highest average by any player not named Magic Johnson. You heard that right. Think about all the legendary point guards that have reached the finals. None of them have surpassed that average in the biggest stage. But you know what Magic Johnson never did? Average over 31 points per game while shooting nearly 56% from the field. The numbers don't lie. In the finals, we have never, ever seen a better playmaker. For a point of emphasis, we mentioned earlier that Jordan averaged the most points per game in the playoffs while winning the title. Do you know who's second on that list? It's Air Jordan once again. This came in the 1992 postseason when he averaged 34.5 points per game on 50% shooting. He also added 6.2 rebounds, 5.8 assists, and 2 steals per game. The fact that he holds the top 2 slots proves that he is a superior playoff performer over any player. The ultimate example of this came in the first round series against the Miami Heat. He averaged the insane stat line of 45 points on 61% shooting, 9.7 rebounds, 6.7 assists, 3 steals, and 1 block per game. This is only the 3rd time that a player has averaged over 45 points in a playoff series. Now I know what you're thinking. Wasn't this done against the bottom feeder? The Heat were the 8th seed and they won only 38 games. Shouldn't that take something away from him? Absolutely not. Think about all the legendary players that were in the same situation, where they faced a subpar team in the first round because they were the number 1 seed. All of them could have taken the opportunity to assert their dominance against their opponent, to send a message that they're the best player in the world. In a few cases, they did that. In others, they saw it as an opportunity to save their energy for the next round. Jordan never had that mentality. He was always in kill mode. No matter who was on the floor, he was always going to give it his all. The vast majority don't have that same mentality. The few that did could never match the numbers that Jordan recorded. This is another thing that separates him from everyone else. It's one thing to have the right mindset, and it's another to have the skills to back it up. Michael's one of the few athletes that had both, so he shouldn't be penalized for making history against that team. Let's be real here. If you had the opportunity to make your path to the finals easier, wouldn't you do it? But to have that luxury, you have to play hard in the regular season to gain home court advantage. There are very few players that took the regular season as seriously as he did. That's why the Bulls had the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference for 5 of their 6 title seasons. But on 2 of those occasions, they made history. In 1996, they won the most games in the regular season and playoffs combined. So when you say MJ went 6-0, make sure to include that he was the leader of the winningest team in NBA history. And guess who has the second best combined record? It's the 1997 Chicago Bulls. They went 84-19. It isn't just that he had 2 separate three-peat runs. As much as they want to dismiss that, it's the fact that the second three-peat is the most dominant 3-year stretch in league history. But that doesn't mean it was a cakewalk. They experienced some close calls that put their title hopes in jeopardy. This is where they asked the greatest clutch player to bail them out. In this video that I made, we discuss in detail that his 1997 finals performance is the most clutch series from any player. He had his hands on 3 game winners. Try to find a player that's had more than 1 in the finals. While you're looking that up, you can then try to find me the number of top 75 players that have made a title clinching shot. The only one is Michael Jordan. If it wasn't for his supreme clutch abilities, maybe he would have gone 4-2 in the finals instead of 6-0. But he made sure that wouldn't happen. So when we say he's 6-0, we're also implying that he's the greatest clutch performer in playoff history. But wait, you haven't even touched Jordan's playoff competition. I wonder why. Are you scared to touch that topic, Mr. Basketball Universe? Let me direct you to this video where I did a deep dive into Jordan's playoff competition versus LeBron's. This will tell you everything you need to know about that ridiculous argument. Now here's the most important point. When we say he's 6-0, we're not just counting his rings. What it really means is that no one has ever performed better on the biggest stage. That is why he never lost in the finals. For Michael Jordan haters, that just might be their worst nightmare. That's all I know, but now it's time for you all to weigh in. What do you think was the biggest reason why he went 6-0 in the finals? What would you say to someone who dismisses that stat? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.